And today we're looking at the Bicycle Stargazers playing card. This is an absolutely gorgeous deck that I know a lot of beginner magicians like to use, and I'll explain why that is in a second. But first, if you like playing cards and deck reviews, this is the channel for you because every single week I put up a new deck review. So subscribe and ring the bell so you can get notified when all those videos drop. And let's get into it right now. So first, of course, let's look at the tuck box. The front of it being done in all black with a few other colors with the dark purples and blues, and then all this silver metallic foil done on the outside of this deck, so you can really get that nice shine depending on the light, a little bit even more holographic depending on your lighting like that. Saying Bicycle Stargazers playing cards. On one side right here, if I can get that to focus, saying air cushion finish made in the USA, and the same thing on this side. And then the back is going to be the back design, standard USB-C tuck seal, nothing crazy on top, and the bottom is just a little bit of ad copy and the barcode. So then on the inside tuck flap, you get a little bit more ad copy and two spade symbols that are upside down for whatever reason on the inside, and nothing in there. So besides that, let's take a look at the cards. Now the number cards are definitely a little bit trippy. Here's why. They definitely all give a constellation look, and they're done in black stock, which definitely is going to make it look dinged more often, but it could just fit with the constellation type thing. Then you get like a pinkish blue here, so for that's diamonds, and then you have spades here, and you have clubs and hearts. So because of all of this, your face fans are going to look like this. Numbers are going to look really good, but I am not a fan of the black cardstock, although I do think it makes sense for this deck since it's Stargazers, more like the universe. I just don't like black cardstock because it ends up looking more dented and more beat up a lot earlier. These court cards, though, are actually pretty cool, so I do really like them. They do look pretty sick. I'm probably not going to be able to get this to focus, and I'm not quite sure why. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so I still like them a lot. They're bicycle standards with the pinks and the whites and the blues, but still a cool looking deck. But it's more ghostly and Stargazer. I completely understand it, but once again, now it's kind of lacking like the saturation of color. It's more just like a white deck, like a white design on a black deck at this point. But I wish they would have had more pinks and more blues to make it really more pop instead of more faded, but still looks good. Then you have your duplicate jokers, which are not your standard USB-C jokers. You have two ad cards, the first one just being, of course, your social media for the Bicycle Cards company. And then the other one is a cool little Stargazer thing, which I will read to you. So it says, get lost in space with this beautifully illustrated deck of cards. Bicycle playing cards Stargazer features colors and designs inspired by one of the most mysterious and awesome objects in the universe, the black hole. The tuck box brings the brilliance of the stars to life with a reflective silver foil, great for any game. You will love playing with this deck hand after hand, which I will explain more about that in a second. Not only because I partially disagree with that. So then when it comes to your aces, you have hearts right here. I do think these aces are pretty cool. You have diamonds, you have clubs, and now your ace of spades. I do wish the ace of spades would have been something a little bit more than the rest of the aces. Like if it looked a little bit more like a black hole. Because truth be told, I read that little thing and I was like, huh, that's kind of cool. I never thought of it like a black hole. I never thought of really any of this deck like a black hole when it came to the faces. Now I understand with the back design, and I'll show you that right now. But the faces don't really resemble any part of a black hole at all. It just resembles kind of like the universe. The back design right here is super cool. Bunch of purple and blue swirls, kind of gives it like looks like an 8 borderless design. So when you fan it, that is going to look amazing. So the reason I see a lot of beginner magicians using this deck is because it's one of the first decks that they've seen that's borderless that they have that they can get for a cheaper price when they're not really like decided on if they want to go full into Magic. So they see a deck like this, they can do some cool stuff with it, a little bit more cardistry-esque type things. It's borderless and it's cheap. So again, it makes it really easy for people to just pick it up, do some cool stuff with it, That's why I don't really like using it a ton, because I feel more like a beginner instead of using more cards that are a little more, not even high end, just like, even just like Theory 11 cards, they're still like just $10, and they feel more high end because of the way that they were designed. So besides that, you also want to know how they faro, how they feel, and who should buy them. So first, of course, how do they faro? So right here, we're going to see that from bottom to top, we have every other, which is, of course, beautiful, although I'm not surprised considering this is a USPCC deck, and USPCC prints amazing freaking cards. Top to bottom, then, is literally every other a perfect faro. So, super nice. Faces look like this one, fan. I guess I hadn't shown you that yet. Now, how does this deck feel? Well, there's two ways of showing you. Well, plus, of course, finish. So, finish is air cushion finish, which means, as you saw in the tuck box, that's going to have those little air pockets. Super nice, and I would never go with anything else because there's that and the smooth finish, and I'm like, ugh, ugh. Can't stand smooth finish. Don't ever put smooth finish on a deck. Can't stand it. Don't know why it exists. I really don't. It's garbage. And besides smooth finish being garbage and air cushion being amazing, there's two stocks. So there's classic stock and premium stock, and then you can either crush or not crush the paper after that, right? So after those two things, and then the crushing, if you want to do that or not, there's two ways that happens. There's the thickness of the deck and how it feels in your hands. Now, the thickness of this deck right here is just middle of the line. It's on classic stock and not crushed. So it's just right down the middle. Every other bicycle deck is going to have the same thickness as this. Now, how it feels in your hands, there's buttery, which is the one that you're going to perform under pressure with, like this. Then you have just middle of the line, which is like your standard bicycle deck. You have snappy or crispy, which I just like, that sounds like bacon, which is what you'd probably use when you're performing something like Hot Shot with. And then if you're going to have a deck that's just stiff, then you just probably can't move this deck. And it just is probably middle of the line. You can do a little bit of both with it. It's not crazy one or the other. It feels like just every other bicycle deck. So after all of that, who should buy this deck, right? So let's start with Magicians. Should Magicians? Probably not. Back design is not suited for Magicians. The faces are kind of hard to just distinguish off the top of the head. Like, you just can't just like, oh, well, that's a this, right? Because there's not enough contrast between the pips and the back design and the faces and like the black background with it actually being kind of transparent. It's a little bit hard to distinguish right off the bat, so I probably wouldn't be performing magic with this, honestly. Cardistry, you can perform cardistry with this, especially for the back design. The faces aren't like, they're not crazy saturated, but the back design, you can perform cardistry with this. There's no problem there. If you're wanting to collect this deck, this isn't a rare deck or an expensive deck, so it doesn't fit in one of those, but if you're wanting to put it on a shelf like that, or if you just like cool cards about like the constellations and outer space, black holes, things like that, like Singularity playing cards by a good friend of mine, that is definitely one that you can work with. I do have a review of Singularity playing cards, which is a review of a black hole deck, which is really like, looks like a black hole. So I'll leave that really, I actually have two reviews, the black and the white, although I don't remember if that was on the old channel or not. But if I have both of those, or one of those at least, I'll leave that in the description so you guys can check out some more black hole themed decks. And again, if you're trying to collect anything like that, feel free. Sure, go ahead and collect it. Then if you're going to play games with this, I don't really see me playing games with this. I mean, you can get it for cheap, so I guess that works. But since it's so hard to distinguish between any of the ones, so like, let's go with this. I was going to show it to you. Bam, right? You can kind of tell it's the 9 of spades, but when you're just looking through it like that, like it just, there's not enough contrast between, like you can literally see through the pips to see the back design. It's just a little bit hard. So I probably wouldn't be using this for gameplay. You can, plus it's going to get dinged up really easily since it is a black stock, right? Black stocks always just get dinged up. You can see it when it gets dinged. So it's probably not going to be one that is going to be able to be used for a long time, or is just going to look crappy after a little while. So after that, probably no. And then is that a hype deck? No, it's not. So if you're wanting to pick this deck up, I'll leave it in the description below. And if it's at Rare Playing Cards, you get 10% off. Even if it's not, and you just want to buy stuff from there, feel free. It's 10% off. I'll still leave the link down there for you guys. I mean, seriously, you guys know I've got you. Plus, it does help out the channel if you do use code cardperfectmagician to get that and go through the link in the description. It does help out a lot. So, after all that, I hope you guys are willing to join along for the ride by subscribing and ringing the bell. Smash the like button if you guys did enjoy this review, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. This is Card Perfect, signing off.